Evening collective. It is, or rather, I should say, good morning. It's uh, just after 3 o'clock in the morning here in Detroit, and in about 17 minutes, we are going to be hitting that Virgo full moon. And it was funny when I said in about 17 minutes, it hit 17 seconds on the clock. So we really got this big 8 energy coming in with this full moon. And I just really wanted to dive in and just sort of just sink into the whole frequency of this full moon and help you tap into it and connect with its energy as well in the most empowering way. So you can really work with the interesting dynamics that are in play with this full moon. But when we're looking at that 8 energy, that 8 frequency, we're looking at manifestation, okay? We're looking at abundance, our ability to create abundance, to actually root it in our material reality. And that's not just limited to the area of monetarily, although finances absolutely come into that, but it's also the manifestation and the rooting of our power. And our power really comes in our choice, right? It's all about the choices we make and how we move forward. And we're definitely going to be presented with a lot of choices with this full moon energy. Now, this full moon is really going to be felt over the next 2 weeks leading up to the new moon on April 1st, on April Fool's Day, which I think is just so interesting, right? Because we have Aries energy coming in. We're starting the Aries season. And I mean, Mars is already, in play with this astrology that we got with this full moon. And I'm going to, talk about that a little bit. But, we have the start of Aries season coming in on spring equinox, right? So big new beginning energy, big full energy, that the fool's journey, that zero starting point. We're really wrapping up old cycles with this full moon. And full moons are a time of culmination. It's sort of like seeing the manifestation of the energy you've put into what you've been building, what you've been nurturing in your life. But they're also a time of wrapping things up, bringing closure to things, ending cycles, and moving forward. And that theme is even hitting heavier this year, especially with that 8 energy, okay? It's definitely a time of finding completion and actually rooting the new vision and beginning that fool's journey, which, that new moon energy coming in with April Fools, I just think is so perfectly aligned. Be on the lookout for that 8 energy, in play. When you come across 8s, in your day-to-day earth walk, pay attention to that. That means you're on the right track. That means, spirit is talking to you and giving you some clues about, your next step as you move into this new cycle that's first ushering in on spring equinox on the 20th. But, we also have that new moon energy backing it up, and that, is kicking off Aries season. So Aries energy really in play right now. And we also have, Venus conjunct Mars going on right now with this current astrology. And that's really significant because Venus, right, rules over Libra, also Taurus, okay? But Libra energy is forward really big right now as well. Libra is Aries opposite, all right? And Mars rules over Aries. So with that Venus, conjunct Mars energy going on, there's definitely like an oppositional push-pull energy that's, been in play for a while now, actually. And with this full moon, we have the full moon trine Pluto. And this is big deal stuff because Pluto is all about, wrapping it up, bringing the shadow into the light, acknowledging where there's unhealthy behaviors, acknowledging the ways we sabotage ourselves, and acknowledging the way we hold ourselves back. And in particular, I really want you to tap into this energy with this full moon by thinking about the ways that you hold yourself back from manifesting your visions, okay? Because that 8 energy, that manifestation, that actual material actualization energy is so forward with this moon, as is a sense of passion and purpose, okay? With that other influence coming in, which is, this moon is also conjunct the asteroid Aphrodite. And Aphrodite is the more rebellious, headstrong, active, masculine, liberated form of Venus. So isn't it interesting? We have this, Venus, this Venus conjunct Mars energy in play, and that Libra, Aries oppositional energy in play. But at the same time, we have this, Aphrodite energy coming in. So really, this is all about how you work the energy, right? You're being given an opportunity right now to determine what is a want and what is a need. And the only way you can figure that out is really by dropping into yourself, which is where that Aphrodite energy comes in. It's more about carving space for yourself, stepping more into your independence and looking at what are your personal desires. What really gets you lit, what really excites you, what works you up, what inspires you, what turns you on, what turns you on. And having it not be so much about the other, but about you and where you're at. What gets your juices flowing. And yes, of course, that applies sexually. There's a lot of passionate energy in play. There's definitely a lot of, heightened emotions around romantic unions with these dynamics in play. And we're doing a lot of reflecting in that regard too. There's a lot of people in the collective that are like, you know what? I don't want to deal with anybody else right now. Even those that are in relationships, maybe finding they're kind of like craving more time to themselves, to sink in with themselves. And it's important because we're clearing the cobwebs out, We are closing an old cycle. It is time to turn within, one last time over these, next few days until we have, it's interesting because we're having spring equinox, right? And that's like the beginning of the new energy. It's when the light starts to really come back in, and the new growth is possible and things start to sprout, right? We see the first beginnings of our vision, and we start planting seeds for moving forward. What we're going to pour our energy into, what we're going to cultivate. But it's almost like this energy is a little bit more extended this year of, still, kind of easing into that emerging light, right? And there's been a lot of darkness. There's been a lot of heaviness in the world. So I think it's even more so in play right now where people are needing a little bit more time for reflection. There's a lot of things that are uncertain right now. So there may seem like almost a sense of futility in investing in future visions. What kind of future are we going to have? There's a lot of uncertainty, and there's a lot of feeling of instability in the collective consciousness. But at the same time, we do have this Virgo energy coming in, with this full moon. And Virgo is very earthy. Virgo is also really practical. And so, yes, it may be uh, uncertain, but that's the reality at any time. It's just sort of more in our face right now with all the upheaval in the world. But that is the truth of the way the world works. Things are always uncertain. There are no guarantees. And all we do have is our choice, right? And so that brings it full circle back to that issue of power, that 8 energy, manifestation. It really comes down to our choices, right? It comes down to our choices. How do we choose to work with the energy? How do we choose to move with the energy? People feel helpless with everything that's going on in the world. And they're also feeling challenged even in their personal lives and their personal relationships, with this energy that's in play. You may be finding that your wants, your needs are very different from others' wants and needs. You may be discovering that you don't actually sync up in ways you thought you did. 11:11 on the clock when I said that. But if you're realizing you're out of sync where you're at, that's just a sign that you're getting synced up with where you're supposed to be. So it's really about flipping that energy. And instead of focusing on where the problem is, start pouring your energy into the solution. And when you look at what the solution is, the solution comes all down to you. And it's all about your power of choice, okay? Now, the thing is, with this Mars energy in play, with the Mars conjunct Venus energy in play, there may be this internal struggle. You may be pulled in 2 different directions. You may be pulled between 2 different people. You may be pulled between, your desire to live like a hermit and, focus on your spiritual life and sort of be solitary and to move back out into the world and into the energy. You may be feeling, a lot of contradictory feelings, and that's natural at this time, but those contradictions, they serve a purpose because they allow us to see, the extremes. And it's through looking at the extremes. Ted has some things to say about this. Yeah, it's through looking at the extremes that we find the center, that we find the balancing point. And when we're looking at the center between polarities of, is it this, is it that, is it yes, is it no? Anytime we're at a crossroads or trying to decide between 2 things, 2 courses of actions, 2 different people, 2 different directions with our career, it can be anything. That answer always comes back to the center, which is us. And the only way we can get really clear on what our intuition is telling us, which is also so forward right now with that full moon trine Pluto energy, is to really come back into our bodies. Because our bodies know, our bodies have the wisdom, right? And the best way to come back to your body so you can really get clear on what you feel, so you can start to differentiate between what is just sort of like a desire or a lust or a vice or a hedonistic hunger, and what is actually something your soul needs and is resonant with that, with your purpose. Self-care is one of the best ways to get embodied. It's so essential. It's so important, and we can really work with that Aphrodite asteroid energy by, focusing on our own self-care, right? And even on a sensual level, this isn't a channel for kids, so I've made it clear this is an adult content channel. But this is about exploring yourself sexually as well. What turns you on? What do you like? What do you need in a partner? What kind of touch do you need? What turns you on? And finding out through exploring your own body, feeling empowered in your own sexuality and the expression of your sensuality without a partner. Without a partner. Even if you're in relationship, understanding that this is an important way to nourish yourself, to stay connected with your body, to stay connected with your desires, to stay connected with your passion, with your needs. And it's nice to have almost like it's like this oppositional energy is in play, but you can look at it as oppositional, or you can look at it as an opportunity for balancing, okay? Because we do have that Libra energy in play, with Libra's ruler so forefront, with the Venus, opposite, Mars, that Venus conjunct Mars energy, they're oppositional energies, right? But are they really oppositional, or are they two halves of one whole? Mars really represents that masculine energy, that active drive energy. We need that active drive. We need to be connected with that passion, with that purpose, with that action, that ability to act. And we need the energy of Venus, which is what nurtures what we put into action, that helps it grow through love, through care, through devotion. And bringing in some of that, softness, soothing, tempering kind of energy, that temperance energy. There's a lot of like balancing energies forward. I keep, seeing that like that Justice card, that Libra with the Libra scales energy, and seeing the Temperance card, and how connecting with our spirit, what really feeds our soul, and by turning within and really nurturing that within us through self-care, bringing it to something very physical with that 8 energy, right? Our bodies, you don't get more physical than our bodies, right? Making time to set up just a simple routine. Something you do to start your day and something you do to close your day. Every day, without fail. To give your body care. Doing some stretches, doing a little yoga, doing some breath work. Maybe reading something inspirational. Dancing. Thinking about what you're looking to manifest, what you're looking to call in, and dancing it in, putting on some music and work with that creative energy, that Venusian energy that, sinks you into your sensuality, and using it to temper all of that, fiery passion. Give that fire a place to go, rather than using it to stir up conflict and dissension and arguments, and because these things will very much be in play with this energy right now too, with that Venus conjunct Mars in play. And people, when they're working through that Plutonian energy, they can feel kind of worn thin. It does take us deep into the kind of dusty corners of our mind, of our consciousness, and makes us look at some of the deeper, darker stuff that we normally, try to avoid. But we need to bring that stuff into light because it's so important how we set our intention right now. And I just want to, acknowledge the light within us, and I don't mean that in some some way that disrespects the dark, okay? There's value in the darkness. And darkness is nothing to be feared. And I think that there's too much of this polarizing energy, right? So let's look at the value of the dark, how it nurtures those seeds that we plant and grow. They germinate in the darkness of the soil, right? And without dark, there wouldn't be any light. They're actually interdependent. And so it's so essential to be conscious of our shadow, the way that acts out, the way it holds us back. Because if you're conscious of it, if you bring it into the light, then you are moving into a place of empowerment and choice. You move through your life with awareness. You're not led by impulsivity. And you're going to need that right now to be very aware of the places where you've been held back by what you haven't looked at, by what you weren't willing to see. It's so important. So I'm just calling in the light for the collective to have the courage to make the subconscious conscious, to take accountability for our shadow, the way we sabotage ourselves on our paths, the way we hold ourselves back. And also for the light to illuminate and awaken people to the reality that if we want to bring healing, bring resolution, whether that's within our personal relationships or even collectively, on a global level, what can we do to help lighten some of the heaviness in the world? It all comes back to us. You don't have control over what is happening in the world. You don't have control over other people's choices. But you do have control over how you show up. And that's really what this full moon energy is about. How are you going to show up? How are you going to show up? Are you going to be present? What are you going to call in? Ted agrees with this message. Okay, Ted. Ted. Okay, baby. Ted's showing up. You're showing up? Yeah. Do you need to go potty? Do you need to go outside and go potty? He does. All right. Spontaneity. So I'm going to keep talking to you while I let Ted out here. You need to go out? Need to go out? No. It's raining outside. It's raining outside right now. And Ted doesn't care very much for the rain. So he's opting to ignore his needs. He's not practicing good self-care right now. But really, it's important to pull your energy back and to focus on yourself and to focus on your care and to focus on your needs, to explore your true wants, to explore your true desires, and where you're being led, to connect with your feeling as your compass, and you can only connect with your feeling if you're really embodied. So, make time for that self-care and explore your true desires. Connect with your passion, connect with your purpose, but also consider what's holding you back from really moving in the direction that sets your soul on fire and excites you. What daily habits do you have that are interfering with your productivity? From actually taking the tangible material steps to get things done. How are you holding yourself back? And start to correct that shit. Take steps to make the change. Choose to show up differently. What is your greatest desire right now? What is your vision? Whether that's for your relationship, your love life, your career, that project you're working on, your community, the global community. What do you need to change? How can you take personal responsibility to show up in a different way in your life? Maybe that means you need to have a better schedule, that frees you up to nourish your personal connections more. So it's not all about work. It's not all about the hustle. It's not all about the grind. Maybe it means taking better care of your body, eating better, getting better sleep, lowering your stress levels so you can show up from a place of fullness and bring your best to the table, because maybe up till now you've kind of been half-assing it a bit. So I want you to really think about that with this full moon. What bad habits are you letting go of? What self-sabotaging behaviors are you letting go of? And how are you going to show up differently? What are you looking to call in? What are your true wants and desires? Take everybody else out of the equation. It's okay to be, focused on yourself right now. Because the choices you make at this point are very, very significant. You're about to kick off a whole new cycle, collective. And you want to make sure that it's aligned, with what's really stirring your soul. Because that's what we need right now. We need people to connect with their souls and their purpose. It's so important. We need people to bring that part of themselves forward in the world right now and to hold their peace, to be their most healthy mind, body, spirit integrated. And a plant ally did come through for the collective for this full moon energy. And that was hyacinth. So, work with that hyacinth energy. It's very much about that love and that beauty. It's very much that Venusian energy, And remember, Venus is kind of the, the more soft, the more silky version of that Aphrodite energy. So bring that in. Bring that softness, that silkiness, that sweetness in to temper some of that, overly aggressive energy that's out there. There's a little bit kind of like excessive sort of masculine, energy out there right now, just planetarily. So if you bring in more that's kind of soft, soft lighting, sensuality, it can be very tempering. Silky fabrics, anything that speaks soft to you and helps you really sink in will help you balance these energies out so you can really get in touch with yourself and what you're feeling. And decide how you're going to shift your mundane reality, the day-to-day nuts and bolts, so you can really call in that vision for this next cycle. What do you want this next cycle to be? What do you want to see come to fruition in the fall? The time to plant that's now. It's coming up real quick, 30:30 on the clock when I said that. So get ready, because spring equinox is just a couple days away. And we're entering a whole new cycle. Bring that mindfulness in with this full moon. And I will be back for part 2 with a collective read.